I wanted to talk about Anthony Edwards. And if you guys haven't seen it, he got into a bit of a controversy earlier this week where he had to issue an apology for some insensitive comments that he made in a private conversation, reportedly with a woman that he had been dating and potentially about to have a child with. The comments related to the two of them, the couple of them deciding if there should be an abortion or not. We're not going to get into the full conversation. We're not going to get necessarily into abortion rights or anything like that. But I did want to illuminate, Danny, the situation in itself, because as I saw it kind of play out on social media to the point where Anthony Edwards had to address it publicly, I thought to myself, man, there's a 22-year-old kid going through
Mhm.
some real life drama, and it's playing out not just in his home, not just among his friends. It's playing out for the world to see. And we've
Yeah.
seen it a number of times in athletics, in sports, in entertainment because of social media, and particularly in athletics where a lot of the stars are young. Anthony Edwards, again, is 22 years old. We saw Ja Morant come back, and he's
Mhm.
young as well. And a lot of the mistakes that he had to pay for were mistakes he made on social media. As a guy who is a veteran and didn't have to grow up, you grew up in a social media age, but it's
Yeah.
nothing like what we see now.
Nah, we
What
grew
is
up
your
half and
what?
half.
Yeah. What would you tell a player like a Ja, like a Anthony Edwards, or any player coming up, how to maneuver in this social media era? Yes, what Anthony Edwards said was bad and it was insensitive. But I
Mhm.
think a lot of people might have made that same mistake at his age. They're just not on the Summer Jam screen
For sure.
like Anthony Edwards
They're not
is.
it's not magnified as much. And it's tough to speak because I mean, I try to compare it to what I tell my younger brother who grew up kind of in that era. And it's like, yo, you got to get offline. You got to get off Twitter. You can't tweet every emotion that comes to your mind. The things you put on Twitter live forever. And these people can pull it up and find it whenever you want. So it sucks, man. It sucks. It's a gift and a curse because there's a lot of access. You get a lot of branding. You can get paid off of social media and many other opportunities. You get a chance to meet and see different places and learn about a lot of things for social media. But the other aspect of it is where your private life is not private anymore, and people can screenshot at any point and put anything out there to try to, I guess, blast you, so quote unquote. It's a tough one. So it's like you got to be very careful how you move. And for a guy who's maybe it may or not be single, you still have to be careful with how you operate with certain people. So it's a advice that I give most guys is, just be careful how you approach or how you talk to people, how you tweet, how you caption certain things. Make sure you read it over. They always tell you in the rookie transition programs and even meetings, have somebody read over it a couple times if you're not sure of it before you put it out there. But yeah, it's tough, man. When you said somebody you trust to have private conversations with will put it out to the public, and now everybody's judging you for it. They have to mature a lot faster, and I feel for these guys. I always tell, even when I was in the locker room with Philly, the young guys, I feel for you guys. It's a different era, it's a different day and age. Even when the dating pool for them, we talked about the restaurants that people, the
Yep.
standards, the time, the entitlement. You guys have to do a lot more work to be taken serious or to get the respect, and you have to be way more careful to not make mistakes or to not be put out on blast, to not have your personal or your private business out in public. So yeah, it's just tougher for these younger kids to be kids. They have to be very much be adults and be grown up and be professional by the time of they're 19, 20 years old.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. And again, there's no excuse for the way that Anthony Edwards held that conversation, that text conversation. It 100% came off as insensitive. But those are real conversations that
Mhm.
real people have across the
Mhm.
country. It just wasn't handled in a sensitive manner. And two, because of his age, it just seems like he doesn't have, he would have probably, one would assume that if he was a bit older, a bit more mature, he
Mhm.
would have handled that better. We just, in this day and age, though, he's just not offered that benefit of a doubt because
Mhm.
it's already on social media. And of course, social media is going to take something and they're going to make it 5 times bigger than what it is. It's just the reality of the world that we live in. So
For sure.
it's just 100%
It sucks that
unfortunate.
he has to learn through this way. His mistakes have to be put
Yes.
on blast, and this is how his mistakes is how he grows up and matures and learns how to handle his situations in the future by getting embarrassed publicly. So I can imagine me at 22, the things that I was saying leak out that I wasn't supposed to leak out through the media, just me being dumb, being a young kid rambling, would get me in trouble when I was in college. Luckily, I had a couple years to go through that, and social media wasn't that big back then that I wouldn't get embarrassed. It would stay locally or within my locker room. Couldn't imagine getting that type of heat or that type of judgment throughout the whole basketball world or the country.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough. So yeah, and I understand too. Like to your point, social media does give a lot. Like
Hmm.
I'm sure Anthony Edwards has a deal with Adidas because he has a large Instagram following. I'm sure he can have other deals with other companies because of social media and the following that he has. But it also, again, can be a curse. It could be leveraged against you. So I am going to offer him a little bit of grace. But yeah, but he's got to tighten up. Point blank. Period.